The stars stretched endlessly beyond the viewport of the *EOS*, a sleek human patrol ship cruising near the edge of known space. Captain Ryan Holt stood on the bridge, his sharp eyes scanning the monitors for any sign of activity. It was supposed to be a routine mission, checking uncharted sectors for anomalies, but something about the silence felt off. "Sir," called Lieutenant Clara Myers from her station, breaking the quiet hum of the ship. "We're picking up a faint signal. It's coming from Sector 7. Ryan turned toward her, his brow furrowing. "What kind of signal?" "It's a distress call," Clara replied, adjusting the dials on her console. "The language isn't one we've encountered before, but the translation software is working on it." Moments later, the garbled message cleared into broken but understandable words. "Ship damage. Propulsion failure. Trapped in debris field. Need assistance." The voice was calm, but tinged with desperation. Ryan straightened, his mind racing. Encounters with alien species were rare, and most ended in misunderstandings, or worse. Still, this was an opportunity. To help, to learn, to make contact. He glanced at Emma Lewis and Jake Monroe, the ship's engineers, who were already gathering their tools. Both looked eager, their curiosity outweighing any fear. "Prepare a shuttle," Ryan ordered. "Emma, Jake, you're with me. Let's see what we're dealing with." The team boarded the smaller craft and set course for the source of the signal. As they approached, the alien vessel came into view, a long, sleek ship unlike anything they'd seen before. Its surface shimmered faintly, as if made of liquid metal, but large sections were scorched and battered. Pieces of floating wreckage surrounded it, remnants of what must have been a violent cosmic storm. "This doesn't look good," Jake muttered, peering out the window. "If their propulsion system is down, they're sitting ducks out here." Emma nodded, her hands gripping her toolkit tightly. "Let's hope they're willing to talk." As the shuttle docked with the alien ship, Ryan led the way through the airlock, his sidearm ready just in case. Inside, the corridors were dimly lit, filled with strange symbols glowing faintly on the walls. A group of tall, slender beings awaited them, their skin a pale blue and their large, oval eyes watching silently. One stepped forward, clearly the leader. "I am Commander Talon," he said, his voice deep and measured, translated through a small device attached to his chest. "You received our signal." "Yes," Ryan replied, keeping his tone steady. "We're here to help." "What happened?" Talon gestured for them to follow him deeper into the ship. "A cosmic storm damaged our propulsion core. Our engineers have tried to repair it, but—" He paused, his expression unreadable. "It is beyond our ability to fix." Emma exchanged a glance with Jake. They had faced tough repairs before, but this was different. Alien technology, unknown systems, and no guarantee they could succeed. Still, they couldn't turn away. "We'll take a look," Emma said confidently. "Maybe we can figure something out." Talon studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Very well. But time is short. This debris field is unstable. If we are not gone soon, we will all be destroyed." As they made their way to the engine room, Emma and Jake took in the alien ship's design. It was elegant yet unfamiliar, every component seemingly integrated into the whole. When they reached the propulsion core, they saw the extent of the damage. Sparks flew from exposed wires, and a low hum indicated the system was on the verge of collapse. Jake whistled softly. "This is bad." Emma frowned, running her scanner over the machinery. "Yeah, but not impossible. We just need to think outside the box." Little did they know, their arrival marked the beginning of a journey that would test not only their skills, but also the limits of understanding between two vastly different species. The engine room of the alien ship was a maze of glowing panels, intricate wiring, and strange devices that hummed with energy. Emma and Jake moved cautiously, their eyes scanning every detail. The Valeth engineers stood nearby, watching silently as the humans examined the damaged propulsion core. Despite their calm demeanor, There was an undercurrent of tension in the air. Commander Talon stepped forward, his tall frame towering over Emma and Jake. "Our engineers have tried everything," he said, his voice steady but tinged with frustration. "We believe the damage is beyond repair." Emma looked up from her scanner, her expression thoughtful. "Nothing's beyond repair if you know what to look for," she replied confidently. "It might just take a different approach." Talon tilted his head slightly, studying her. "Your species is younger than ours. Your technology is primitive compared to what we have built. What makes you think you can succeed where we have failed?" Jake bristled at the comment, but Emma kept her cool. She pointed to the tangled mess of wires and components around them. "Sometimes fresh eyes help. We're not bound by your methods or assumptions. Let us try. What do you have to lose?" For a moment, Talon didn't respond. Then, with a slow nod, he gestured toward the damaged core. "Very well. You may proceed. But know this, if your attempts fail, it could worsen the situation." Emma gave him a small smile. "We'll be careful." As Talon stepped back, one of the Violet engineers approached them. His name was Kale, and though he didn't speak much, his curiosity about the humans was evident. He pointed to a section of the core and began explaining its function through gestures and broken phrases translated by his device. Jake leaned closer, trying to understand. "Okay, so this part regulates energy flow?" he asked, pointing to a glowing panel. Kale nodded. "Yes, but unstable now. Too dangerous to fix." "That's what they all say," Jake muttered under his breath, earning a sharp elbow from Emma. Ignoring him, Emma focused on the task at hand. She ran more scans, jotting down notes on her tablet. The propulsion system was unlike anything she'd ever seen. Elegant and efficient, yet incredibly complex. It reminded her of a puzzle, each piece fitting perfectly into the next. But now, those pieces were broken, and putting them back together would require creativity, as much as technical skill. As the hours passed, the two teams worked side by side, though not without challenges. Misunderstandings arose frequently, especially when terms or concepts didn't translate well between languages. At one point, Jake accidentally triggered a minor power surge while testing a connection, causing sparks to fly. The Valeth engineers flinched, and Kale shot him a disapproving glare. "Sorry," Jake said quickly, holding up his hands. "Just figuring things out." Emma sighed, shaking her head. "Maybe let me handle the delicate stuff." "Okay." Despite the occasional mishap, progress was made. Emma noticed patterns in the way the Valeth designed their systems. Everything was interconnected, relying on balance rather than brute force. It was beautiful in its own way, and she found herself admiring their craftsmanship. Meanwhile, Jake struck up a conversation with Kale, attempting to bridge the cultural gap. "So, how long have you guys been stuck here?" he asked awkwardly. Kale hesitated before responding. 3 cycles of your Earth days." "Not too bad," Jake said with a grin. "Could have been worse. At least you've got good company." Kale blinked, clearly confused by the comment, but after a moment, he gave a faint smile. It was a small gesture, but it marked the beginning of something important, a mutual respect forming between the two species. By the end of the day, Emma and Jake had mapped out a rough plan for repairs. They knew it wouldn't be easy, but they also knew they couldn't give up. As they left the engine room to rest, Commander Talon stopped them. "You are persistent," he said, his tone softer than before. "Perhaps there is hope after all." Emma smiled. "Hope is what we do best." Back on the shuttle, Jake flopped onto a seat, exhausted. "These aliens sure don't make it easy, do they?" "No," Emma agreed, rubbing her temples. "But that's what makes it interesting. Tomorrow, we dig deeper." Little did they know, their efforts were about to bring the two species closer than either had imagined, and set the stage for a partnership that could change the galaxy forever. The next morning, Emma and Jake returned to the alien ship with renewed determination. They carried with them a mix of tools from their own ship. Welding equipment, circuit testers, and spare parts they hoped could be adapted to fit the Valith technology. The Valith engineers were already at work in the engine room, their movements precise but tinged with frustration. Sparks flew as they attempted another repair, only for the system to fizzle out once again. Emma stepped forward, holding up her tablet. "Let's try something different," she suggested. "Your approach is too focused on fixing what's broken without considering how everything works together. We need to stabilize the core first before we can repair it." Cale frowned, his large eyes narrowing slightly. "Stabilize? How?" Jake gestured toward the glowing panels surrounding the propulsion core. "Think of it like this. If you have a leaky pipe, you don't just patch the hole right away. You shut off the water first so you can work safely." Cale tilted his head, clearly trying to process the analogy. After a moment, he nodded slowly. "I see. But how do we shut off the water here?" Emma pointed to a series of valves connected to the energy conduits. "If we reroute the power flow temporarily, we can reduce the strain on the damaged components. It'll buy us time to figure out a permanent fix." The Valith engineers exchanged glances, hesitating. Commander Talon stepped closer, his expression thoughtful. "This method, it has not been tried before. Are you certain it will work?" "No," Emma admitted honestly. "But doing nothing guarantees failure. Trust us. Let us try." After a brief pause, Talon gave a firm nod. "Proceed." With that, Emma and Jake got to work. Using their portable scanners, they identified key points in the system where they could divert energy safely. Jake handled the physical adjustments, carefully loosening bolts and rerouting cables, while Emma monitored the readings on her tablet. The Valith engineers watched closely, occasionally offering assistance when asked. At one point, Jake accidentally triggered another minor surge, causing the lights in the engine room to flicker. Cale let out a low hiss of frustration, but Emma quickly intervened. "It's okay. That was expected. These systems are sensitive. We're learning as we go." Cal's expression softened, and he offered a small nod of acknowledgement. "You adapt quickly." "It's what humans do best," Jake replied with a grin, though sweat dripped down his forehead from the effort. As the hours passed, the team began to make real progress. By stabilizing the energy flow, they reduced the risk of further damage and created a safer environment for repairs. Emma noticed subtle changes in the way the Valith interacted with them. They no longer stood back skeptically, but instead leaned in, asking questions and sharing insights about their technology. One breakthrough came when Emma realized that the Valith materials reacted differently to heat than human alloys did. She suggested using a lower temperature setting on their welding tool to avoid damaging the delicate components. Cal tested the idea and found it worked perfectly. For the first time, a genuine smile crossed his face. "You learned fast," he said, his voice carrying a hint of admiration. "So do you," Emma replied warmly. By the end of the day, the propulsion core was stable enough to begin the next phase of repairs. Though far from fixed, it was a significant step forward. As they packed up their tools, Commander Talon approached them, his posture less rigid than before. "You have done well," he said, his tone almost appreciative. "Perhaps your methods are not so primitive after all." Jake smirked. "Told you we'd surprise you." Emma shot him a look but couldn't hide her own smile. "We're just getting started. Tomorrow, we'll focus on rebuilding the damaged sections." As they left the alien ship, Jake stretched his arms above his head, groaning. "Man, I didn't think I'd ever say this, but those aliens aren't half bad." Emma chuckled. "Yeah, they're growing on me too. Who knew we'd bond over duct tape and wiring?" Back aboard the *EOS*, Captain Ryan Holt greeted them with raised eyebrows. "How's it going?" "Well enough," Emma said confidently. "We've stabilized the core. Now comes the hard part, fixing it for good." Ryan nodded, his expression serious. "Keep it up. Time's running out." As they prepared for the next day's work, Emma and Jake felt a renewed sense of purpose. What had started as an uncertain mission was becoming something more. A chance to prove that even the most impossible problems could be solved through cooperation and ingenuity. And somewhere along the way, two very different species were finding common ground. The following day, Emma and Jake arrived at the alien ship with a new plan. They had spent the night brainstorming ideas on how to repair the damaged propulsion core using a combination of human ingenuity and Vilith technology. Their goal was clear: retrofit parts from the *EOS* to stabilize the alien ship systems permanently. It was risky. Removing components from their own vessel could leave them vulnerable. But it was the only way forward. When they entered the engine room, the Vilith engineers were already waiting. Cale greeted them with a nod, his earlier skepticism replaced by cautious optimism. "What is your plan now?" he asked, his voice calm but curious. Emma held up a small device from her toolkit. "We're going to adapt some of our equipment to fit your system. It won't be perfect, but it should work long enough to get you out of here." Cale tilted his head, studying the device. "Your tools are simpler than ours. Will they hold?" "They're tougher than they look," Jake said with a grin, holding up a piece of reinforced metal. "Humans design things to last, even if they don't always look pretty." Commander Talon stepped closer, his expression unreadable. "If this fails, both our ships may be lost." "It won't fail," Emma said firmly, meeting his gaze. "We'll make sure of it." With that, the team got to work. Emma focused on designing custom adapters to connect the human parts to the Vilith systems, while Jake handled the physical modifications. The Vilith engineers assisted where they could, offering insights into their technology and helping translate complex concepts. Despite the language barrier, communication flowed more smoothly now, thanks to shared gestures and growing trust. At one point, Jake struggled to attach a coolant pipe to the alien machinery. No matter how he adjusted it, the connection leaked energy. Frustrated, he tossed down his wrench and muttered, "This would be easier if we didn't have to mix two completely different systems." Emma knelt beside him, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "That's the challenge, and the beauty of it. We're building a bridge between our worlds, literally and figuratively." Jake sighed, picking up the wrench again. "All right, let's try something else." Meanwhile, Cale observed their teamwork with quiet admiration. He turned to Commander Talon and said softly, "These humans, they do not give up easily." Talon nodded. Perhaps there is wisdom in their persistence. As the repairs progressed, small victories began to add up. Emma successfully integrated a stabilizer module from the *EOS* into the alien system, reducing the strain on the core. Jake figured out how to modify a heat exchanger so it worked with the Vilith conduits, preventing overheating. Each success brought them closer to completing the repairs, but time was running out. The debris field surrounding the ship was growing more unstable, chunks of rock and metal colliding with increasing frequency. Alarms blared intermittently as sensors detected shifts in the gravitational pull. Captain Ryan Holt radioed in from the *EOS*, his voice tense. "How much longer?" he asked. "Another day," Emma replied, though she wasn't entirely sure. "Maybe less if we keep this pace." "You'd better hurry," Ryan warned. "The black hole's forming faster than we expected." The pressure mounted, but neither Emma nor Jake let it show. They pushed through fatigue, focusing on the task at hand. The Vilith engineers joined them in the effort, working tirelessly despite their own exhaustion. By the end of the day, the propulsion core was nearly functional. It just needed one final adjustment to fully integrate the human components. As they packed up their tools, Cale approached Emma and Jake. "You have done more than repair our ship," he said quietly. "You have shown us that differences can lead to strength, not weakness." Emma smiled, feeling a lump rise in her throat. "We couldn't have done it without you. This was a team effort." Jake nodded, extending his hand. "Here's to finishing the job tomorrow." and getting you guys home. Cale hesitated for a moment before shaking Jake's hand, a gesture of respect that spoke volumes. For the first time, the divide between their species felt smaller, bridged by shared determination and mutual understanding. Back aboard the *EOS*, Emma and Jake collapsed onto their bunks, physically drained but emotionally buoyed. They had faced countless challenges over the past few days, but they were close to succeeding. As Emma closed her eyes, she thought about the bond they had formed with the Vailith, not just as collaborators, but as allies. Tomorrow would be the final push, and no matter what happened, they knew they had already achieved something remarkable. The final day of repairs began with a sense of urgency that hung heavy in the air. The debris field was collapsing faster than predicted, and the distant hum of the forming black hole sent tremors through the alien ship. Emma and Jake arrived early, their faces pale but resolute. They knew this was it, the last chance to get the Vailith propulsion core working. As they entered the engine room, the Vailith engineers were already hard at work, their movements quick and precise. Commander Talon stood nearby, his expression grim. "Time is short," he said simply, his voice carrying an unspoken weight. Emma nodded. "We'll finish this. Just stay focused." With that, the team dove into the final phase of repairs. Emma and Jake worked side by side, making the last adjustments to the integrated system. The human components had been successfully adapted. But now came the hardest part, syncing them with the alien technology. A single miscalculation could destabilize the entire core, dooming both ships. Jake tightened a bolt on the coolant pipe, sweat dripping down his face. "How's it looking over there?" He called out to Emma, who was monitoring the energy flow on her tablet. "Almost there," she replied, her eyes glued to the screen. "Just need to balance the output one more time." Cale stood beside her, watching intently. "You are very skilled," he said quietly. "Your people, they adapt quickly." Emma glanced up, giving him a small smile. "So do you. This wouldn't have been possible without your help." Their moment of camaraderie was interrupted by a loud crackle from the core. Sparks flew as the system surged, sending everyone scrambling back. Emma cursed under her breath, her heart racing. That wasn't supposed to happen. Jake rushed over, scanning the area. What went wrong? Emma studied her tablet, her fingers flying over the screen. "One of the connections isn't holding. We need to reinforce it before we try again." Commander Talon stepped forward, his tone sharp. "There is no time for mistakes. Every second counts." "We know," Jake snapped, frustration bubbling over. He took a deep breath, forcing himself to calm down. "Sorry. Let's fix it." Working quickly, Emma and Jake reinforced the connection with extra clamps and insulation. The Vailith engineers assisted, their hands steady despite the chaos. When the adjustments were complete, Emma gave the signal to power up the core. The room fell silent as the system roared to life. Lights flickered, and the hum of energy filled the air. For a tense moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly, the readings stabilized. The core was functioning, at least temporarily. "It's working," Emma exclaimed, relief flooding her voice. "But we're not done yet. We need to run one final test." Cale nodded, relaying the instructions to his team. Together, they initiated a diagnostic sequence, checking every component for weaknesses. The process was agonizingly slow, but finally, the results came back clear. "We did it," Jake said, letting out a shaky laugh. "It's stable enough to get you out of here." Commander Talon approached them, his expression softening for the first time. "You have saved us," he said simply. "We owe you our lives." Emma shook her head. "You don't owe us anything. Just promise to pay it forward someday." Before anyone could say more, an alarm blared, signaling increased instability in the debris field. Chunks of rock and metal tumbled past the ship's windows, pulled toward the growing black hole. Captain Ryan Holt's voice crackled over the comms. "You need to leave. Now, the Valith wasted no time. With their propulsion core online, they prepared to depart. As Emma and Jake boarded the shuttle to return to the *EOS*, Cale stopped them. "Wait," he said, extending his hand. In it was a small glowing crystal, a token of gratitude. "May it remind you of what we achieved together." Emma accepted the gift, her throat tight with emotion. "Thank you. Safe travels." Back aboard the *EOS*, the crew watched as the Valith ship powered up and moved away from the debris field. The sleek craft accelerated smoothly, its damaged sections now repaired thanks to human ingenuity. As it disappeared into the distance, the black hole consumed the remaining wreckage, leaving only silence behind. Jake leaned back in his seat, exhaling deeply. Well, that was intense. Emma smiled, clutching the crystal in her hand. And worth every second. Captain Ryan Holt joined them on the bridge, his expression thoughtful. "You two did something extraordinary today. Not just fixing a ship, you built a bridge between species." Emma and Jake exchanged a glance, knowing he was right. The mission had been about survival, but it had become so much more. As the stars stretched endlessly before them, they felt a renewed sense of purpose and hope for the future. The *EOS* drifted silently through space, its crew watching the distant glow of the black hole fade into the void. The tension that had gripped them for days finally eased, replaced by a quiet sense of accomplishment. Emma and Jake sat on the bridge, their bodies weary but their spirits high. The mission was over, but its impact lingered in every corner of the ship. Captain Ryan Holt broke the silence. "You two did something remarkable out there," he said, his tone warm with pride. "Not many people could have pulled that off." Jake shrugged, though a grin tugged at the corners of his mouth. "We just did what we had to do. Lucky it worked out." "Lucky?" Emma raised an eyebrow, holding up the glowing crystal Kel had given her. "It wasn't luck. It was teamwork, human and alien working together." Ryan nodded thoughtfully. "That's what makes this so important. This wasn't just about fixing a ship. It was proof that two completely different species can find common ground when it matters most." As the captain returned to his duties, Emma turned to Jake. "Do you think they'll be okay?" "The Valith." Jake leaned back in his chair, staring out at the stars. "Yeah, I think so. They're tough, and now their ship's running again. Besides, they've got Kel. He's smart and stubborn enough to keep them going." Emma smiled faintly, her mind replaying the moments they'd shared with the Valith. She hadn't expected to form such a connection with them, especially given how skeptical both sides had been at first. But somewhere along the way, distrust had turned into understanding, and strangers had become allies. It made her wonder what else was possible if humanity reached out further into the galaxy. Hours later, as the *EOS* prepared to jump to faster-than-light speed, a new signal appeared on their monitors. It was faint but clear, a transmission from the Valith ship. Lieutenant Clara Myers adjusted the comm system, her eyes widening as she deciphered the message. "They're thanking us," she said, her voice soft with awe. "And they're inviting us to visit their homeworld someday." The news spread quickly through the ship, sparking excitement among the crew. For years, humanity had dreamed of making contact with advanced civilizations, but those encounters were rare and often fraught with misunderstandings. This felt different, a genuine invitation built on trust and mutual respect. Emma held the crystal tighter, her heart swelling with emotion. "This changes everything," she murmured. "If we can work together like this, imagine what else we could achieve." Jake chuckled, leaning closer. "Yeah, but next time, let's try not to almost get sucked into a black hole, okay?" Emma rolled her eyes but couldn't suppress a laugh. "Deal." Later that evening, Captain Holt gathered the crew for a brief meeting. Standing on the bridge, he addressed them with a rare smile. "Today, we proved that humanity isn't alone in the universe, and that we have more to offer than anyone might expect. The Valith didn't just see us as primitive or weak. They saw us as equals. And because of that, we've opened a door to possibilities none of us could have imagined. The room erupted in quiet applause, the weight of their achievements settling over everyone. As the meeting ended, Emma and Jake lingered on the bridge, gazing out at the endless expanse of stars. "You know," Jake said after a moment, "this whole thing started because of a distress call. Who knows how many others are out there, waiting for someone to answer." Emma nodded, her eyes reflecting the starlight. "Maybe it's our turn to be the ones who show up, not just for ourselves, but for others too." As the *EOS* leaped into hyperspace, leaving behind the remnants of the debris field, the crew felt a renewed sense of purpose. Their journey had been difficult, even dangerous, but it had also been transformative. They had faced challenges, bridged divides, and forged a bond that transcended species. And as they sailed toward the unknown, they carried with them the hope that humanity's place in the galaxy wasn't just as explorers, but as partners, builders, and friends. Weeks passed as the *EOS* continued its patrol mission, but the encounter with the Valith remained fresh in everyone's minds. Emma and Jake often found themselves reflecting on the experience during quiet moments. The glowing crystal Kale had given them now sat on a shelf in the engineering bay, a constant reminder of what they had achieved together. It wasn't just a gift, it was a symbol of possibility, proof that even the most unlikely alliances could lead to something extraordinary. One evening, Captain Ryan Holt called Emma and Jake to his office. They entered cautiously, unsure what to expect. Holt gestured for them to sit, his expression unusually serious. "We've received confirmation from Command," he began. "The Valith have formally requested an alliance with humanity." Emma's eyes widened. "An alliance? For real?" Holt nodded. "They've credited us with saving their crew and expressed interest in sharing knowledge and resources. High Command is eager to pursue this. They see it as a chance to strengthen our position in the galaxy." Jake leaned forward, his curiosity piqued. "What does that mean for us?" "It means we'll likely be part of the first official delegation to visit their home world," Holt replied. "You two made a strong impression on them. Command feels your involvement would help solidify trust." Emma and Jake exchanged a glance, excitement bubbling up inside them. The idea of stepping foot on an alien planet, meeting the Valith in their own environment, was both thrilling and humbling. It was also a sign that their efforts had sparked something far greater than they'd imagined. As word spread through the ship, the crew buzzed with anticipation. For years, humanity had dreamed of peaceful cooperation with other species, but such opportunities were rare. The Valith invitation felt like a turning point, a chance to rewrite the rules of interstellar relations. In the weeks that followed, preparations began for the journey to the Valith homeworld. Emma and Jake worked closely with linguists and diplomats to learn more about Valith culture and customs. They studied recordings of previous interactions, picking up subtle cues about body language and communication styles. Though nervous, they were determined to represent humanity well. Finally, the day arrived. The *EOS* docked at a designated meeting point near Valith territory, where they transferred to a sleek transport vessel provided by their new allies. As they approached the planet, Emma pressed her face against the viewport, awestruck by the sight below. The surface shimmered with vibrant colors, dotted with towering crystalline structures that seemed to pulse with light. When they landed, Commander Talon and Kale greeted them personally, their expressions warm and welcoming. "Welcome to Valor," Talon said, bowing slightly. "We are honored to host you." Emma stepped forward, clutching the crystal tightly. "Thank you for inviting us. We're grateful." Over the next several days, the humans explored the Valith city, marveling at its beauty and ingenuity. They attended ceremonies, shared meals, and discussed potential collaborations in science, medicine, and engineering. At every turn, they were met with kindness and respect, reinforcing the bond forged during their earlier struggle. On their final night, Kale approached Emma and Jake as they stood outside, gazing up at the stars. "You have changed us," he said softly. "Before you came, we thought ourselves alone in our understanding of the universe. Now we know there is much to learn. From you, and perhaps from others beyond." Emma smiled, feeling a lump rise in her throat. "And you've changed us too. You've shown us that differences don't have to divide us. They can make us stronger." As the humans prepared to leave, Talon presented them with another gift, a small device that would allow direct communication between their species without the need for translators. "A token of our friendship," he explained. "May it guide us toward a brighter future." Back aboard the *EOS*, Emma and Jake stood side by side, watching as Valor disappeared into the distance. Their journey had been one of challenges, growth, and discovery. But more importantly, it had planted the seeds of hope for themselves, for humanity, and for the countless possibilities that lay ahead among the stars.